Hey everyone, Morgan Carey here, CEO of Real Estate Webmasters. We're here in the brand new REW studio, and we have a very special visitor today, my friend Stefan Swanepoel from T3. And we're really excited. Stefan, you're actually the very first visitor to the REW studio from the industry. We did have Google here last week, so that was fun, and really appreciate you taking the time to do a quick interview with us, and really excited to tell our viewers a little bit about your business, and so yeah, I'd love to jump into it.
Well, thanks for the invite. Thanks for the tour of the campus.
Yeah, what'd you think? You got the new build, a new R&D building and stuff like that?
I'm impressed. I mean, this was my second trip to the island to come and look specifically at your offices. I love touring our clients and looking at their stuff. And you took me today to more buildings and more spots and more floors than you did last time. I don't know when I was here last time. I think it was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
And you took me to 2 buildings at that time. Now, if I look here outside, I think you like own the town here. You've got all the corners, and we were in at 1, 2, 3, or like 5 spots, I think. So I can see you're still under construction. This is not quite done yet, but it's impressive. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
We're really excited. The new R&D building obviously is the big focus. I mentioned we won Building of the Year, so that's
the elevator and the glass one and the tower.
So really cool.
Good job.
Really cool.
Good job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So news from T3, the Mega 1000. It's been getting a lot of press. We love it, of course. It keeps us very well informed. Tell us a little bit about sort of the genesis of the Mega 1000, and you guys have a bunch of other publications as well. I'd love to hear about it. What does your coverage look like now? What's the focus of T3 in terms of publication?
Well, one of the big arms of the T360 group is the research analysis department, the divisions which we try and see if we can become the data source for the industry with regard to the industry itself. So we have a publication which we call the Swanepoel Trends Report, which is now in its 13th year, and it basically analyzes all the trends every year and publishes a 200-page report, an analysis on the trends. Then we have another report which we call the Swanepoel Power 200, which analyzes all the leaders, and you're on that list, right? So we analyze over 3,000 executives from real estate brokers to franchises to MLSs to associations to tech people like yourself. Many of your clients are on that list as well. So we look at the 3,000 most influential people, and then we rank the top 200 into multiple categories. The Mega 1000 is now an analysis of the top 3,000 brokerage companies in the country, and then from that we distill it down to the top 1,000, and we look at sales volume and agent count and transaction count on an annual basis. And then we break that up into franchises, independent offices, brokerage companies, holding companies, because in our real estate industry, as you well know, the industry structure varies from company to company. So a Realogy company structure is different from a Keller Williams structure, which is different from a HomeSmart structure. So we have to look at the structure of all these businesses to make sure we have an apples and apples comparison. So these are just 3 examples of reports which come out every year. They're basically an analysis of the playing field which we play in, the market which you and I talk to, everybody who's in the residential real estate brokerage business.
North America specifically.
North America specifically. We have in 1 or 2 cases started expanding into Canada, so our leaders do include into Canada, but on our
Canada counts in North America.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
We're here.
You most certainly are here. You most certainly are here. But you're also very unique, right?
Right.
There are certain rules and methods and structures which are slightly different. And sometimes it's not a fair comparison to throw you guys in the same bucket. Sometimes it's better to keep 2 buckets.
Right, and we have different privacy laws and things of that nature, so data is obviously
treated differently.
Yeah, it's not always as easy to come by.
No.
So there are other industry lists, obviously, that have been around for a long time. You've improved upon these lists. Tell me about what was the impetus for the, specifically the Mega 1000? What are the things that you're doing different? What's been additive? What's the extra value that's been brought?
The other lists are great. They have been around a long time, and we have, as an organization, I'm sure you have, referenced them in the past.
Of course.
We've all used them. They are great lists. But they were limited, in our opinion, by the fact that they only took survey data as a single source of entry. So people gave them information, and
voluntarily they would just, you had to submit.
Yeah, you'd be invited to participate and you'd put it in. But there were many times companies that decided not to participate.
Right.
for whatever reasons they did decide. And therefore the lists were never, in our opinion, complete. And as a consulting arm, which is a different division of our company, we were doing consulting for companies like your own company, but for many other companies. And as you well know, the consulting, the services, the decisions you take are only as good as the data which you have.
Right.
And we were often finding that many of these lists did not include those companies which did not want to participate. So we felt it was time that you needed to try and create a list which included everybody. It doesn't mind what structure you have, whether you participate or not participate, where we get the data, whether the information comes from a franchisor, whether it comes from the web, whether you get it from another third-party source, but that you should try and create a list which is all-inclusive. Right. And it covers everything. And that's the intention of the Mega 1000. It is supposed to include every single real estate brokerage company, whatever structure you have, that we are aware of. And I don't think we've missed any, but if we are, of course, tell the people, reach out to us, go to mega1000.com, let us know, and we will include you next year.
So that's mega1000.com.
Yes, simple,
with
easy.
zeros?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have some different categories in there as well. You broke it down not just by brokerage, but you had, what are the other, like it was like by franchise or by, you did some analysis there?
So the traditional lists have always just been the brokerage companies.
Right.
And that's a great list. It still is a great list. It is still the dominant part of the list. But you today have franchisors, you have holding companies like a Realogy or a Berkshire Hathaway, which now has acquired multiple companies below it. And we wanted to make sure that you have an apples and apples comparison. So when you look at the brokerage list, number one is NRT. And you would say, well, where's RE/MAX? Where's Keller Williams? Well, they're franchisor organizations. So according to the brokerage list, they don't officially fall on that list.
Right.
But if you look at the franchisor list, yes, Keller Williams is number one, RE/MAX is number two, Coldwell Banker is number three. Well, where's Realogy? Well, that's a holding company. They are the parent for Coldwell Banker and Century 21 and ERA and Sotheby's. So they're on a different list. So you'll never find one list that has all of the companies on it. So we wanted to go and take a deep dive, analyze all the companies, understand what the different structures are. And once you know what they are, you can go like, oh, I get it. This is a banana, this is an apple, this is a pear, this is an orange. They're all fruits. I get that, but they're all different. So I'm going to put them in different categories.
Now, just because of your focus in your consultancy, you don't do anything with teams or agents on these lists, correct?
At this point in time, these are all company structures. Okay. So whether they're franchisor, holding, public, private, brokerages, we haven't got to teams yet. But most certainly we will have to get to teams. So that will be an expansion of the list once we do the next list next year. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So been in the news a little bit lately, just mentioned teams there. So we now have a lot of these mega teams becoming brokerages, sometimes because that was the plan. And sometimes there is a recent article that folks could look up if they wanted to, I think on Chris Lindahl, where one of the top teams of these top franchises left that organization and is becoming brokerage. What do you think in terms of this change, this trend of like teams almost becoming brokerages and then becoming sort of indie brokerages? What do you see there?
Yeah. So in our trends report, which we put out every year, we rank the top 10 trends from 1 to 10 every year. And in the 2017 report, teams was actually identified as the number one trend. Right. So it is, you're right, it is not a new, the trend's been around for a long time, but it has been a growing, surging, very popular shift in the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years that the team structure seems to have found its niche in the market. And we don't know exactly how many teams are in the country. We're not sure how many people are on teams because there's no way in which they are officially registered or filed. Mm-hmm. But there have been some studies to try and determine that. And it is estimated at the moment that there's about 300 to 400,000 realtors who are parts of teams. And that number is growing. Teams is a different structure in way in which you can run a business operation. Right. I mean, you can be a solopreneur, it can be you and your wife, it could be a family team, little business, it could be an informal team, you could create a team as an LLC, you could create as an incorporated company. A team basically is a way of running a business. Right. They could become brokerages if that's the goal. But many teams are happy to be a team within a brokerage. They might want the brokerage bigger brand. They might want the brokerage's better technology, the services which you offer. It might be a franchisor's brand that they may want to use. There are different reasons. I don't think that all teams are going to necessarily become brokerages. Many would do that because that might have been their original plan or a strategy or an exit strategy. Maybe it's a way to cash out. But teams is another complication we have in our industry where the industry lines are becoming blurred.
Right.
You now have virtual companies, online companies that don't have offices. You have some places where you have maybe a single office, but they operate nationally. Then you have teams which are in multiple regions. Then you have franchises. Then you have independently owned and operated. Then you have subsidiaries. Then you have franchises. There are multiple ways to run a successful operation in real estate. Teams is one.
So if a team is basically a brokerage, if it's 150, like we just signed last year the Craig Northrop Group, and they were the #1 team on the track list of teams, and now they've become, of course, a brokerage under the Craig Northrop Realty under Long & Foster.
Yep.
But do you think that there's going to be any changes in terms of tracking and legislation if a team gets so big that really they're operating fundamentally as their own entity? Obviously brokers have, and the definition of being a broker versus an agent or a team is they have all kinds of other fiduciary responsibilities. They have all kinds of other obligations and risk. I mean, the broker is oftentimes at risk. That's part of the reason you want to be on a team and not a broker. But do you think there's any chance that the governmental agencies might start looking at teams and going, well, you're really a brokerage, and you're just behaving like a team because then you get away with not having to have the accountability that a normal large organized group would have?
I think if there is no accountability, I think if there is a gap between errors and omissions and insurance and responsibility and accountability and systems in place, and somebody can prove that there's a claim to be had, sure, I think they will. But in the case which you said, which you used as an example, which is now under Long & Foster, they addressed all of those items. So you don't necessarily have to become a brokerage to be accountable, to be responsible for all of those things. There is another brokerage or entity or a business that could have E&O insurance, that could have accountability, that could have a brokerage license. We don't have one entity in this country that could qualify or explain or cover brokerages in all 50 states. Every single state is differently. You have states like Colorado where there are no agents. Every agent is a broker there. There's just one license there. So
Right.
brokerage license is the agent license, is the broker license. You have some states like Montana where I think the licensing requirements, if I remember correctly, is 40 hours, which is the lowest in the country. And you can go all the way to Texas, which I believe is the highest, at 220.
Right.
So the licensing requirements, the brokerage requirements is not the same universally in our country, which means if we wanted to see changes, it would have to happen state by state.
Right.
Now, if there were serious legal problems, maybe a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau would step in and say, here's a problem. But at this point in time, there's no indication that there's a problem.
Do we know what percentage of the transaction volume at this point, say in the US, is covered by teams?
No, I don't think we know. We can guess, but I don't think we actually know. So it is, because it's not a separately legally incorporated entity and it's not tracked separately as that, and I think there's still a lot of gray areas with regard to team members, so we don't know. But I will undertake in the next couple of years to try and get my hands around that as well.
I'm being selfish. I love teams. Obviously, I work with a lot of teams. So changing direction a bit, T3 Summit this year in Miami. Awesome event. Obviously, we at Real Estate Webmasters try to get as many executive level people as we can there every year. I think I can honestly say, since we go to all the events, it was our favorite event so far this year. So congratulations.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
We even had like that little restaurant around the corner. When I think you walked over, there was dolphins. Like, it was just surreal how well everything seemed to go. So congratulations on that event. Looking forward to next year already. Where is it going to be? Tell us a bit about I know you don't pick your speakers until, you curate almost the content for the attendee list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't know too much about the speakers, but what can we know? Where is it? Who should be invited? Are you sold out yet? I know you always do.
Yes, so the T3 is not an open event. It is not intended for everybody. It is most certainly not actually intended for agents. The focus is the leadership of the industry.
So CEOs and
yes.
high-level VPs and stuff like that.
Exactly right. So C-level executives, both on the franchise, the brokerage, the associations, the MLSs, and technology companies. We try and curate the content around the people that are going to be there. So we sell out. We are probably now, and we're about a year away, we're probably about 75% already sold out, completely. And the ones which we've not sold out, we've actually kept behind. We've actually blocked those tickets off to wait for the new SP200, which will be released by the end of this year. So if we see the new rankings of the people, we will then actually extend invites to people that make the list, that we might not know who's on the list at the moment. So the intention is that once you have the leaders together in the room, you try and identify what are their needs, What is the current high focus in the industry? What are the pain points? Where are the growth points? What is hot in technology? Where are the shifts taking place? So we will actually only start working on the program about 8 weeks before the event.
It's got to be stressful.
Yeah, it sounds short, but it is for that reason why the T3 event is so powerful, because we spend an enormous amount of time. And if I say we, I mean me. This is not delegated to just any staff member in the company. The president of the company, myself, spend an inordinate amount of time of trying to pick each individual session and trying to curate the right people that will give you the right mix on stage, the right difference of opinions, the right contrast of thought on the stage, the diversity of speakers, to make sure that we don't just have the same speakers over and over. I mean, the industry often uses the same speaker too many times and they get overplayed. So you're trying to find the right balance of knowledge, skill, applicability, timing, and then also just finding the right mix of people, putting the right people on stage at the right time. It's like anything else. It's like programming. It's an art. It's a skill, and we pride ourselves in it. We take a lot of pride of putting together the best event in the industry. We like it.
Nice. So we took you on a tour of Real Estate Webmasters, and we talked a lot about our growth, but we've seen you grow a lot in your organization and your consultancy. Obviously, I've met Michelle, and I work with Jack personally on the technology side, and now Travis. Tell us about the organization and where that growth has happened, because there are a whole bunch of names that are new to the roster in the last, let's say, 24 months.
Yes.
And love to hear about what they're doing.
Well, our industry, before I get to our company, our industry, which you love so much and I do as well, is going through fundamental structural core change, automation, capitalization, corporatization. And as the industry is changing and growing and morphing into something, we believe that the support companies like yours, companies like the trainers, the coaches, companies like ours, the consulting companies, the management consulting companies, we need to grow together with the industry.
Right.
We can't remain small when the industry itself is actually morphing and growing into bigger things. And our industry has never really had a big need for a diversified, integrated, large management consulting company, because many of the real estate companies were mom and pop companies.
And they didn't want to change either.
They didn't want to change, no.
We were talking about this earlier. Like, there seems to be this perceptible sort of increase in sort of trajectory. Like, it's, for a long time, I've been doing real estate almost 20 years now. There's a lot of status quo stuff. Things change all the time, but there didn't seem to be this perceptible hockey stick. And now
you can feel it.
You can feel it. It's palpable. You can feel like, with the outside pressures of the VCs and technology companies, Zillow's not new anymore, Redfin's not new anymore, all this sort of stuff. There is real motivation for change, and so I think that's momentum. Probably that's in line with needing to grow the support services, right?
At Remax's IPO, EXP's IPO, Zillow's IPO. Look at the funding which has gone to the Compasses and the Open Doors. I mean, there is just a lot of buzz and activity happening. And as many businesses are now growing and morphing, acquiring and merging, they have more needs for skilled management expertise for a certain period of time. They don't need to hire a whole team of 20 people for the rest of their life. They might just need that team of 20 for a week, a month, 2 weeks, to take care of a certain initiative, a certain drive, a certain growth, a certain acquisition. So we have expanded the consulting company to become the biggest focused consulting company in the residential real estate brokerage industry. So there's a brokerage division which focuses just on helping brokers grow their brokerage division.
And who runs that one?
Let me see. The brokerage division is Dean Cottrell. Right. He came over from NRT, so he came from the Realogy side, where he's been with companies like Cowell Banker and Wyckoff and Long & Foster. He's also been a broker at the Rockface for 2 decades, 2.5 decades, so also lots of experience. Then we have an M&A division. That's Michelle you referred to, Michelle. She comes from Classified Ventures. She also was with Realtor.com. She also worked with Modern Ventures. She worked with NAR, where she specialized in M&A work. So a lot of the stuff which Move.com acquired, Tiger Leads,
Now that's technology specific M&A, is it, or is that brokerage M&A as well?
We do 3 sides. We do tech side, we do brokerage side, and we do MLSs at the moment.
Okay, so is Michelle on the brokerage and the tech and the MLS?
She's on the brokerage and on the tech side.
Okay.
And then she has 2 people in her division which are slightly more expert on the broker side to support her on the M&A side.
Understood.
Then there is a technology division.
Right.
Tech is hard. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Your company's hard, Redfin's hard, Zillow's hot. I mean, tech is the buzz of almost everything. So we have a whole technology department, and that's Travis Saxton.
Right.
He joined us at the beginning of this year. Jack used to run that division. So Jack was head of the technology division. He got promoted to president of the company, and Travis stepped in as the senior vice president of tech. That's where we help anybody with tech solutions, whether it's a franchise or a brokerage company. Even if it's a tech company that wants to grow, expand, do acquisitions, find maybe a new leader of a company, hire somebody else, expand, do an acquisition of another tech company. So we do the tech as well. Then we have, let's see, another division. We have the MLS division. We have Kevin there.
Kevin McQueen, right?
Kevin McQueen, yeah. He's been in the industry for, I think, 3 decades. He used to run the MLS in Michigan.
Right.
He's also run his own business. He's now done, I think, about 80 mergers and acquisitions, 80 in the MLS. I think we have at the moment about 14, 15, 16 MLSs at the moment under contract, which are in some form of discussion, consideration, expansion, talking to a neighbor, thinking about consolidating a back end, a front end, looking at acquiring.
So is this actual consolidation for like resources? Like you've got the, GMLS and FMLS, and they might come together.
Yes.
I think you manage that.
Yes.
That process.
There are many MLSs that, due to economies of scale, pressure by brokers, delivering a better service, trying to see if it can be more cost effective, just practicality. When many of these MLSs were founded in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, they were geographically located because that's how servers were at that time, as you well know.
Yeah.
Now with the advent of technology being anywhere, anytime, in the cloud, big servers, you don't necessarily need. We have at the moment in the country, let me see, give or take 650 MLSs. Some people might argue that we might only need 1 or 10 or 20 or 30. So we think that there's hundreds of MLSs that may, not necessarily will, but that likely may consolidate over the course of the next 5 years. So we're helping with that process. We are now also starting an association division, where associations are going through somewhat of the same kind of need and functionality. We get a lot of requests from associations asking us to help them with business planning, strat planning, leadership finding. So you can see multiple divisions. We have a strategy division, which just does strategic mergers and acquisitions for companies. Right. So we have the consulting division, we have the research division, and then we have I call it the education or events division, which is the T3 Summit, which you referred to.
Nice. So I know we talked about this earlier, us being in Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island. Sleepy little town, not so sleepy. I know your wife is a big fan of Victoria and Butchart Gardens and whatnot. What do you think of the island? What do you think of having, technology and executives and stuff over here?
So second trip to your offices, but probably my 5th trip to Victoria and to Vancouver Island, because the associations asked me over twice, I think, for an event which I spoke at. And I would definitely say unexpected. Right. You hear island and you think small palm tree, beach bums and, a few sandals. And, if you've never been to Vancouver Island, you'll be caught off guard because this is a hustling, bustling, just a freeway from Victoria to here, was a four-lane freeway and I was doing 120 most of the way. And there was lots of shops and businesses. I was surprised at the size and the infrastructure of Nanaimo. Mm-hmm. But what surprised me the most is your property prices are still awesome. Yeah. I could get top dollar here for...
Well, and
I'm in Orange County.
Yeah.
I think your prices are cheap here.
Well, and you get a 30% discount too because your American dollars are actually 1.3. So when you hear $500,000 or $500,000 for a really nice home here in Nanaimo, take 30 points off of that because you get $1.30 for every dollar. So that'd be like paying... What can you get for $350 in Orange County?
Nothing. a small 1.5 bedroom condo.
Yeah.
And you can't be too picky.
You can get a half acre and 5 bedrooms here.
Mm-hmm,
so
yeah. No, I was pleasantly surprised. This is, it's got a very nice, British Columbia's got a very nice European, laid back, but yet business focused environment. Mm-hmm. It's unique. I like it. I like it.
Well, because I know you have that special young lady with you visiting, and you guys are you going to tour Tofino and whatnot, right?
We're heading up to Tofino this afternoon, and then tomorrow we're going to do the Butchart Gardens.
Excellent. So I am going to let you go here and say thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite, Morgan. Congratulations on a good job.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.